You can't escape the weather, it's all around us. Though waking up to a sunny and bright day makes you want to go out and seize the day, there are days when the weather is downright dull and gloomy. But on rare occasions, you might even wake up to the storm of the century. If you've never experienced crazy weather, then get ready. Here are 12 of the most extreme weather events caught on video. Hang on tight. Before we get started, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell for more amazing content. Let's get to it. The TriState Tornado. Hollywood movies like Twister have given us a good idea of how bad tornadoes can get. The TriState Tornado is probably one of the worst on a scale of deadliness. 1925 was not a good year in the United States when a cluster of 12 big twisters descended on the nation. The TriState Tornado was part of this cluster and is still considered as the deadliest tornado in U.S. history. At its peak intensity, the tornado was more than a mile in diameter and was moving at a pace of 70 miles per hour. It was not graded at the time, but most believe it was probably an EF5 tornado, which is the most dangerous type on the Fujita scale. It destroyed 15,000 homes and wiped out 164 square miles of land, with a total damage of $1.4 billion. It left behind a 219-mile-long track as it made its way through southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, and finally into southwestern Indiana. This track is considered the longest ever recorded. The tornado outbreak of 1925 killed 747 people, and more than 2,298 were injured, making it the deadliest tornado outbreak in U.S. history. Alberta Blizzard. Across the northern border of the U.S., another terrifying calamity hit the Canadian province of Alberta in November 2020. A strong low-pressure system gave rise to a severe blizzard which hit the Canadian prairies hard. The blizzard also caused several roads in Saskatchewan and Alberta go into closure since the blizzard made it treacherous to drive with visibility being almost zero. The town of Kindersley saw a record-breaking 48-hour-long snowfall which brought about 18.7 inches of snow. The citizens were told to be prepared with emergency kits in case they plan on traveling during the blizzard. In such situations, it's best to stay put until the weather clears up or until help arrives. Beijing Sandstorm. It's no news that air quality in China is nothing to brag about, but when a sandstorm hit the capital city of Beijing in 2021, it took air quality level to a new low. Gale force winds caused by the storm from Mongolia and northwestern China scooped up enormous amounts of sand from the Gobi Desert and brought it all the way to Beijing. When it finally reached the city, the residents were shocked to see Beijing being completely enveloped by orange dust. What's worse, this wasn't a sandstorm but a dust storm. The latter carries much more tinier particles than a sandstorm and can easily penetrate the lung. It was on a level almost double that of the hazardous stage set by the Beijing Air Pollution Real-Time Quality Index. The WHO recommends that particulate levels should not exceed 20 micrograms per cubic meter in a 24-hour period. This dust storm contained 999 micrograms per cubic meter, so this was not good news. London's killer fog. Fog adds an air of mystery to the environment, but not when it's smog. The infamous Great Smog of London is considered as the worst air pollution crisis that affected the United Kingdom. Things got really dark one fine day in London in 1952. The smog took over the entire city in December and stuck around for 5 days. People didn't panic during this event since Londoners are used to fogs on a routine basis. Though at the time it wasn't understood, the smog descended over the city due to unusually cold weather, anticyclone and windless conditions coupled with air particulates from coal mining operations. The whole event claimed the lives of around 12,000 people, and around 100,000 people were made ill by its effects on the respiratory system. London has experienced poor air quality since the 13th century, but this incident alone was the worst in its history. Longest heat wave. Phoenix finally set the hellish record no one wanted in 2020, marking the most days in a calendar year to reach 100 degrees or higher. The National Weather Service in Phoenix reported the temperature hit 100 degrees in 2020. At 144 days of triple-digit highs, temperature broke the record of 143 days set in 1989. Phoenix tied that record in October 2020. The new number of 144 days sets a record going back to 1896, the first full year for which weather records were kept, according to Marvin Percher, meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Phoenix. Of course, a record like this is pretty tough to beat, so we never really thought that we would have a high likelihood of getting it, Percher said. Human-caused climate change and the urban heat island effect contribute to 2020's weather as well. Concrete and asphalt absorb the sunlight during the day and radiate the heat throughout the night in the Phoenix metro area, exacerbating already rising temperatures due to climate change. The average temperature in the valley has increased by 4.35 degrees since 1970, according to a 2019 report by Climate Central. Siberian Hailstorm. Beaches and Siberia are two words which you don't often hear one after the other. But you'd be surprised to know that the city of Novosibirsk in southwestern Siberia has plenty of beaches along the shores of Ob River. Russians rarely appreciate summer since it's a rare weather in these parts, but in 2014 a seemingly regular day suddenly changed when a crazy hailstorm hit Novosibirsk. Temperatures dropped from 105 to below 70 in a matter of a few minutes. The hail caused a lot of injuries and unfortunately killed 2 young children. You can see all the beachgoers trying to scurry away while some try to take shelter under umbrellas. This just goes to show how unpredictable weather can be. Number 4. Raining fish. Fish falling from the sky may sound like the end of the world, or maybe free food, depending on if you're a glass half full or half empty kind of person. On February 2019, the residents on the Mediterranean island of Malta witnessed a rather unusual sight. Hundreds of fish were raining down from the sky. It looked unreal, but these fish are very much real. Most of them were sea breams and were landing on the roads of Semžija near St. Paul's Bay in North Malta. The government had issued a warning for the coastal area stating high threat to life and property. Despite the warning, some residents took to the street since they just didn't want to pass on the opportunity for free food and stocked up on fish. This strange opportunity came to be because the winds reached gale force and caused it to pick up fish from the sea and then rain them down over Malta. At least people of this island don't have to worry about their next meal for a few days. Lightning strike. Getting struck by lightning is not something most people think about since it's so rare. But sometimes rare things happen. But what's even more rare? The same person getting struck by lightning twice on 2 separate occasions. This was the case for Beth Peterson. While serving as a soldier for the US Army, she was struck by lightning back in 1992. She sustained serious brain damage and had to relearn how to walk, read, and write. After this traumatic incident, Beth decided to soldier on and wanted to face her fear once again. She decided to witness a thunderstorm exactly a year after the incident. While standing next to a French window, Beth was struck by lightning a second time. The strike threw her 9 feet in the air. She had to go through several surgeries after this, including 12 for her jaw and amputation of all her toes. Imagine living under that kind of fear and anxiety. If you're the victim of an extremely rare accident, and twice at that, how would you deal with the trauma? It's definitely not going to be easy. At least Beth is still alive. Black Sunday. We've all heard of Black Friday, a day when many stores offer highly discounted offers. Black Sunday, however, is a lot more ominous. Families living in the Great Plains in the US are familiar with the term black blizzards. They're exactly what they sound like, dust storms which are incredibly dense that it practically blocks out any light in its path. Well, one of the worst black blizzards hit this region on April 14, 1935, and shrouded the area in complete darkness. The storm measured 1,000 miles in length and affected the states of Oklahoma and Texas. People had to take shelter in their homes and cars and couldn't see one another even when standing next to each other. It caused massive economic and agricultural damage, and a lot of animals died as well. The Black Sunday storm is said to have displaced 300 million tons of topsoil from the prairie region and was caused by drought, erosion, bare soil, and wind. Double full circle rainbow. Rainbows are one of the most natural wonders that we get to see once in a while. Most of us have seen the regular rainbow, but have you seen these double full circle rainbows? They're quite rare. Rainbows in general are full circles and not just arcs. The observer is only able to see a portion of it, hence they appear as a semicircle. If you want to witness these rare double full circle rainbows, you need to get high above the ground. And not just that, rainbows are an optical illusion, so any place where there are water droplets will do. You also need to be at a certain angle in relation to a light source. If all the conditions are met, you'll be blessed with this sight. Morning Glory Cloud. Do you enjoy looking at clouds? Then this one will blow your mind away. Though very hard to find, the Morning Glory Cloud is a real thing. It's caused by low-level atmospheric solitary waves and the associated clouds that come with it. What you end up seeing are these rolls of clouds spread across miles in either direction. They can sometimes be as long as 600 miles in length and 1.5 miles high. What makes them even more special is that they can sit as low as 300 feet above the ground, so they're basically really low-lying clouds. They appear in different parts of the world from time to time, but there is one place on the planet where they often appear, the southern part of the Gulf of Carpentaria in northern Australia. Since they appear in this region almost predictably, a lot of research on these clouds is conducted here. Scientists are still studying their properties and origin, but in the meantime, we can enjoy these rare clouds just the way they are. Tuscaloosa Tornado. If the devastation from hurricanes made you shudder in fear, you got another thing coming your way. Tornadoes are equally dangerous and can cause incredible devastation in their path. The 2011 Tuscaloosa Birmingham tornado in the state of Alabama was amongst the 360 tornadoes that hit the US that year. This super outbreak was the largest, costliest, and one of the deadliest tornado outbreaks ever recorded. On a late afternoon, April 27th, the 1.5-mile-wide tornado made its way through the cities of Tuscaloosa and Birmingham and left a trail of destruction. The wind speed of this tornado peaked at 190 miles per hour, caused damages adding up to $2.5 billion, with 64 people dead and thousands injured. Though tornadoes are uncommon in this part of the country, April 27th took everyone by surprise. This single day saw a record-breaking 216 tornadoes, with 4 being categorized as EF5, the strongest according to the enhanced Fujita tornado scale. EF5-level tornadoes are very rare, so to have 4 of them in just one day was just unfathomable. The coldest cloud. Do you enjoy lying on the ground and doing a bit of cloud gazing? This relaxing pastime is a great way to appreciate the cosmos and the interesting shapes that nature throws at us. If you're lucky, you might just get to see the coldest cloud out there. Of course, there's no way to know if a cloud is cold just by looking at it, but this is where science comes into the picture. The coldest cloud recorded was discovered in 2018, and it was peacefully gliding over the Pacific Ocean. Because it was so cold, it was interfering with satellites, and they couldn't get a proper reading of its temperature. But thanks to the infrared sensor on board an NOAA satellite, it managed to scan the cloud and came up with a record-breaking number. It measured an incredible minus 167.8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is unlike any other cloud recorded before. A reason for this extreme temperature is because of a phenomenon called overshooting tops. Basically, it means that the top of the cloud goes beyond the lowest layer of the atmosphere and breaches into the very cold stratosphere. This cloud too had an overshooting top, though this still couldn't explain why it was 86 degrees Fahrenheit colder than all the other clouds ever recorded. Strange indeed. Biggest fire season. In 2020, a single wildfire in California has reached the stunning size of more than 1 million acres, becoming the first gigafire in the state in decades. As of October 6, 2020, the August complex fire in the northern part of the state had burned at least 1,003,300 acres and was 54% contained, according to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, or CAL FIRE. The area that has burned since the fire ignited on August 16th is larger than Rhode Island and spans 7 counties. The blaze is just one of almost 24 major wildfires in the Golden State at that time, in what had already been an extraordinary year for these sweeping infernos. Across the state, fires had burned a record-shattering 4 million acres in 2020. The 4 million mark is unfathomable. At least 31 people died in California as a result of the fires, and millions were facing the health risks of deadly air pollution as clouds of smoke settled over urban areas. The fires had also destroyed more than 8,000 structures. And it's not just California that had been burned badly. Western states including Oregon, Washington and Colorado had also seen severe wildfires in 2020. It's the breathtaking culmination of bad luck, years of poor forestry practices, urban development and climate change. The world's largest storm. Typhoons are no joke. They wreak havoc in their path and destroy people's lives in one swoop. Typhoon Tip was the largest and most intense tropical cyclone ever recorded. The typhoon was born from a disturbance within the monsoon trough on October 4th near Pohnpei in Micronesia. Eventually, it grew into a super typhoon and reached its peak sustained wind speed of 190 miles per hour. The The storm had a diameter of 1,380 miles and resulted in 99 deaths in total. Even though the intensity of the typhoon reduced before entering Japan, it was still deadly enough to cause various landfalls and destroyed many properties. The rainfall from the typhoon resulted in a fire which killed 13 and injured 68 Marines stationed at Camp Fuji in Shizuoka Prefecture. The typhoon finally dissipated on October 24th near the Aleutian Islands. Hurricane Katrina. If you remember back in August 2005, New Orleans went through hell for weeks. Hurricane Katrina wreaked havoc along its way while passing through the Big Easy. On August 29th, the Category 5 hurricane devastated the city, causing $125 billion in damage and left 1,800 dead. Home to almost 400,000 people, New Orleans was battered completely for weeks. With all transport and communication systems completely wiped out, the residents who didn't manage to escape the city were facing an increasing risk of diseases. They also lacked food, shelter, and basic necessities. Around 80% of New Orleans was underwater, and the faulty flood protection system that was in place was responsible for the heavy death toll. Upon further investigation, it was found out that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers were to be blamed, since they were responsible for setting up the flood barriers. Hopefully, the new flood systems are efficient enough to ward off any similar future threats. Lenticular Cloud. Another truly unique-looking cloud is the lenticular, which kind of looks like a UFO. The bizarre shape is caused by the air hitting geographical features like mountains, which change the course and temperature of the air and give rise to these strange shapes of clouds. Some of these lenticular clouds can even have bright colors around the edge and give an impression of a spaceship hovering above the ground. At certain angles, it does look like a Chinese rice hat as well. Pretty cool, right? Giant dust devil, Arizona. Sometimes extreme weather can happen even on a sunny and hot day. Dust devils are formed when an area on land heats up more than the area around it, and this makes the air above the ground to heat up. This causes a column of heated air to start circulating above, which picks up dirt and dust along the way. Though they're generally not dangerous, sometimes they can grow up to 3,000 feet and pose a serious threat to people and properties. This footage taken from Scottsdale, Arizona gives you an idea on how massive they can get. There have been cases when a dust devil caused fatalities, like in 2003 when a man in Lebanon, Maine was killed when the building he was in collapsed because of this weather phenomenon. So if you ever see one, it's best not to get too close to it and just keep moving. Dubai fog. This one is something you could watch all day. Though not a dangerous weather phenomenon in itself, fog can still cause accidents due to low visibility. But today we're going to focus on how beautiful it looks with the rising sun. Watch these ethereal clouds rolling in between the massive skyscrapers in Dubai. It's truly magical. Fog is a type of visible aerosol with tiny droplets of water or ice crystals and can waft through open areas like a white carpet from the heavens. Clearly, the Crown Prince of Dubai, Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed, loves the fog in the city. This is definitely worth waking up early for. A million-year rainstorm. If you thought the great flooding that took over the planet during Noah's time was bad, then wait till you hear about the million-year rainstorm called the Carnian Pluvial Event, or CPE. Some believe that between 234 and 232 million years ago, a great deluge began which changed life on Earth forever. The deluge was brought about by climate change and volcanic eruptions, but apparently we should be thankful for this traumatic event that may have occurred millions of years before our time. If not for CPE, we would not have come into existence. Scientists believe CPE ravaged the planet in such a way that it set the stage for new life to evolve, which includes some of the first coral reefs, trees, reptiles, and dinosaurs. If so, then our story would be tied closely to this mass extinction event that allowed life to evolve into what we see and know today. Makes you wonder how life would have turned out if the Carnian Pluvial event didn't happen. Microburst. Take a look at this image. It looks like an ominous cloud hovering over a city skyline. The colossal cloud opens up to dump a torrent of rain onto a small area of land below. It really is an amazing image. It looks like it could be a bizarre weather phenomenon known as a microburst, where a big cloud formation drops water or air in a tiny pocket. Ever felt like it was raining just in your town when everyone else was just enjoying the glorious sunshine? Well, perhaps you could have been at the center of a microburst. Wind speeds in microbursts can reach up to 100 miles per hour or even higher, which is equivalent to an EF1 tornado. Winds this high can cause major damages to homes and other structures and level hundreds of trees. Red rain. What does the phrase "it's raining blood" summon up in your mind? A murderer on a killing spree? Maybe a catastrophic war with many casualties? Maybe an old samurai movie with tons of enemies sliced down by a sword? These are all scenarios which we usually gravitate towards thanks to movies and pop culture. But what if I told you there is a kind of rain which is red in colour and very much real? This is the story of a small town in the state of Kerala, India, who witnessed red rain on July 1957. Not surprisingly, the residents of this sleepy town weren't ready for something like this. People panicked and ran away indoors and sought shelter. Luckily, the red rain wasn't anything sinister, and no one was hurt in the episode. After the incident, a study was conducted to solve the mystery of this blood rain. Initially, it was thought that the red rain was brought on by a meteor burst. A later study commissioned by the Government of India concluded that the strange rain was the result of a locally found algae spore being mixed with the rain to create this unusual colour. Thankfully, the people here can rest easy now, and this type of rain is quite common in this region. Rogue wave. Rogue, freak or killer waves have been part of marine folklore for centuries, but have only been accepted as a real phenomenon by scientists over the past few decades. 10-story high near-vertical walls of frothing water, smashed portholes and flooded cabins on the upper decks, 30-metre behemoths that rise up from nowhere to throw ships about like corks, only to slip back beneath the depths moments later. Rogues, called extreme storm waves by scientists, are those waves which are greater than twice the size of surrounding waves. They're very unpredictable and often come unexpectedly from directions other than prevailing wind and waves. Since these waves are uncommon, measurements and analysis of this phenomenon is extremely rare. Rogue waves have been implicated in the disappearance of numerous ships, including the SS Waratah, Australia's Titanic, which vanished en route to Cape Town in 1909, and the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, which sank in Lake Superior in 1975. Crazy fire tornado. Yep, you heard it right. Fire tornadoes actually happen, and they really occur frequently too. How do they form, you may wonder? Well, all it takes is for an ordinary tornado to cause an explosion, the fire from which is then swirled up in the cyclone like any other thing it encounters. The dangerous part is that these tornadoes tend to throw out balls of fire in all directions. They're obviously more harmful than ordinary tornadoes, as they can potentially set the countryside on fire, leading to the wood or crops they engulf to become ashes in minutes. A typical tornado is followed by calm. However, when a fire tornado ends, the scorched fields and land become a bigger problem. And imagine one of these hits a forest, that could lead to a significant loss of wildlife. Wildfires are already known for moving fast, and if they also have the support of a tornado, it only doubles the disastrous consequences. Winds of Mount Washington. One place that's well known to have more than one dangerous phenomenon is Mount Washington. Dense fog, heavy icing, extreme velocity winds, massive snowfalls, and significant cold. Mount Washington has it all. In fact, for over 60 years, this mountain in Hampshire held the world record for the fastest wind gust ever recorded, with a gust as high as 231 miles per hour, recorded in 1934. Mount Washington may not be the coldest of all places, but it stands as one of the harshest places on the entire planet, even rivaling some areas in the polar regions with 3 to 4 times higher plains. While many scientists do visit the mountain from time to time for the sake of scientific and educational research, it's not really a great place you'd be eager to go during winter. We're almost at the end of our list, but before moving on to number 1, here is an interesting video which is worth checking out. SIFO might seem like an odd thing to see on a beach, but these are not an uncommon sight here on the Australian coast. The foam has taken over large swathes of the beach because of a tropical cyclone which passed through Australia. These foams are actually impurities in the ocean that get pushed up by the powerful storm currents and finally come to the surface and rest on the beach. They might look like fun to play with, but best not to since they are dirt after all. The Godzilla dust plume. Each year, dust from the Saharan desert blows off Africa and across the Atlantic, but most years that plume isn't so massive. It's nicknamed Godzilla. This June, the annual plume earned that nickname, as well as the title of the dustiest such event in the 20 years that scientists have kept records of these storms. All told, it contained between 60% and 70% more dust than a typical one of these plumes. It also travelled farther than the annual phenomenon, called the Saharan air layer, typically does. The plume forms when thunderstorms and heavy winds pull dust up off the Saharan desert, beginning in late spring. The atmosphere then carries the dust away throughout the summer and into the early fall. How far the plume travels depends on local qualities of the atmosphere. With that, we've covered the most extreme weather events caught on video. Have you seen any of them in real life? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this series, be sure to hit the like button, share and subscribe. We'll be back soon.